The sound of rain hitting the glass was sharp and uneven, like 1,000 tiny reminders that life rarely goes as planned. Inside a crowded grocery store, a young cashier named Emily wiped her trembling hands on her apron as she scanned another customer's items. Her smile was polite but distant, masking the exhaustion in her eyes. She'd been on her feet since morning, working double shifts to pay rent, to keep her little brother in school, to survive another week. But at that moment, she didn't know that in the next 10 minutes, her entire life would change, not by luck, but by an act of compassion that would cost her everything before giving her something far greater. Backhand index pointing right. Before we dive deeper into this emotional story, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in the ripple effect of kindness, that one good deed can change someone's world forever. That evening, the store was unusually busy. The line stretched long, the machines beeped constantly, and the manager, Mr. Carson, barked orders at the employees with irritation. Emily kept her focus on the customers, quietly counting each dollar, each smile, each sigh. Near the end of her shift, a small girl, no older than 7, wandered into her lane. Her eyes were wide but distant, her hands flapping gently against her chest. She wore headphones and a bright pink backpack with a rainbow sticker peeling off one side. Behind her, a frantic woman, her mother, clearly, tried to catch up while balancing groceries and an umbrella. The child dropped one of her toys, a little plush rabbit, and let out a soft, distressed whimper. Emily didn't hesitate. She knelt down right away, meeting the girl's gaze at her level. She didn't touch her or speak loudly. She simply picked up the toy and held it out gently, saying softly, "It's okay, sweetheart. Here it is." The little girl blinked, then smiled faintly and took the rabbit back. The mother finally reached them, clearly flustered, whispering apologies and gratitude. Emily just smiled warmly, told her everything was fine, and handed them their groceries with extra care. What Emily didn't notice was that the store manager, Mr. Carson, had been watching the whole thing, his jaw tight, his expression sour. When the customers left, he marched toward her with clipped steps. "Emily," he hissed, "I told you not to engage with customers like that. You're slowing down the line. We're not a daycare here." Emily tried to explain, but before she could even form a sentence, he raised his voice for everyone to hear. "If you want to play hero, do it somewhere else. You're done here." Her heart stopped. She thought she'd misheard him. "Sir, please." "I didn't." But he'd already turned away. "Fired." Just like that. The mother, who had paused near the exit, overheard everything. Her face fell as she realized what had just happened. She started to approach, to say something, but the manager's glare stopped her cold. Emily gathered her few belongings, a torn notebook, a half-eaten sandwich, her old phone, and walked out into the rain. Tears mixed with the downpour, and for the first time in months, she let herself cry. She had no idea that the little girl she'd comforted, the one with the pink backpack, was the daughter of one of the most powerful CEOs in the city. The next morning, in a penthouse office overlooking the skyline, that same little girl sat quietly at her father's desk. Her name was Lily, and she was coloring a picture of a rabbit and a kind-looking woman with brown hair. Her father, Daniel Blake, one of the youngest CEOs of a multinational tech company, was busy on a call when he noticed the drawing. "Who's that, sweetheart?" he asked, half smiling. Lily pointed at the woman in the picture and said softly, "She helped me. She made the noise go away." Daniel frowned, confused. Later that day, his driver told him what had happened at the grocery store, how a young employee had been fired for helping Lily when she'd been overwhelmed by the crowd and noise. Something in Daniel shifted. He'd spent years building his empire, hiring the best, firing the worst, focusing on profit, performance, and precision. But in that moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, guilt. Because his daughter's comfort had cost someone else their job. He called the store immediately. The manager, trying to sound professional, explained that the cashier had broken policy by engaging too long with a customer. Daniel listened in silence. When the man finished, he simply said, "I'll be there in an hour." When Daniel walked into the store later that afternoon, people froze. He wasn't the kind of man you could ignore, tall, impeccably dressed, calm yet intimidating. Mr. Carson practically tripped over himself greeting him, unaware of the storm he'd just invited. Daniel looked around the store, his eyes finally landing on Emily's empty counter, her name tag still lying forgotten on the side. "Where is she?" he asked. The manager stammered, "Who, sir?" "The woman you fired yesterday." "Oh, she was disruptive, sir." "Unprofessional, really?" "I assure you." "Unprofessional?" Daniel's voice was low but firm. "She comforted a frightened little girl, my daughter. She showed more humanity in 30 seconds than most people show in a lifetime." The manager tried to backpedal, but Daniel's expression was unmoving. "You," Daniel said, his tone cutting, "shouldn't be leading anyone. Consider yourself on unpaid leave until further notice." He left before the man could speak again. That evening, Daniel and Lily found Emily's address through the store's records. They arrived at a small, dimly lit apartment complex. Emily sat outside on the steps, her head resting on her knees, a blanket draped around her shoulders. When she looked up and saw them, the same child and mother from the store, and a man she didn't recognize, she blinked in confusion. Daniel introduced himself softly and explained everything. He told her who Lily was, what had happened, and how he'd spoken to the manager. Emily's eyes filled with disbelief and tears. "I'm so sorry you lost your job because of us," he said quietly. "But you didn't deserve that." In fact, he paused, then looked directly at her. "You work for me now." Emily thought it was a joke. But he wasn't smiling. He offered her a position in his company's community outreach department, helping design programs for children with special needs and families who struggled with inclusion and understanding. It wasn't charity, he saw in her something rare, empathy that couldn't be taught. For weeks, Emily felt like she was dreaming. Her new job gave her purpose. She wasn't scanning groceries anymore, she was changing lives. She learned about autism, she met families, she helped create awareness programs across schools. Every time she saw Lily at the office, the child would run up and hug her, the same little girl who once flinched from everyone else's touch. And slowly, Daniel found himself watching Emily more closely, not with the eyes of a CEO, but with the eyes of a father, and maybe, something more. As the months passed, Emily's kindness seemed to ripple through everyone she met. She spoke softly, but her presence was powerful. Even Daniel, who'd once believed emotions were a distraction, started visiting her department more often. One day, after a successful fundraiser for autistic children, he found her alone in the conference room, cleaning up leftover decorations. "You know," he said, "you've done more for this company's heart than I ever could with money." Emily smiled, her hands pausing mid-motion. "I didn't do much, Mr. Blake. I just cared." He looked at her for a long moment. That's exactly what this world forgets to do. Their connection deepened, quietly, naturally. They started spending time together outside of work, sometimes with Lily, sometimes just walking through the park, talking about life, pain, and second chances. Emily learned that Daniel had lost his wife years ago, and Lily's diagnosis had left him feeling helpless. She also shared her own struggles, raising her younger brother after their parents passed away, working multiple jobs, never asking for help. Their stories mirrored each other's loneliness, and somehow, their broken pieces fit. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Daniel stood by the window of his office, watching Emily laugh with Lily in the courtyard below. He realized something that made his chest tighten: compassion had rebuilt not just his company, but his heart. He remembered how the world had once told him to be ruthless, how success meant stepping over others. But that one moment, One woman kneeling to help